Hey everybody, welcome to the Tom Parsley channel. I'm Tom, and just like Parsley, we get into a little bit of everything. So what are we getting into today, and where are we today? We're kind of in the new studio setup over here in the Parsley headquarters because it's still a little too cold, a little too snowed in, a little too iced in to go outside, but it is starting to warm up a little bit, and we're about mid winter. Spring's coming in a couple of weeks, so we should be able to get out there and do some content outside. So we're bringing it inside, and we're looking at some gear. We're going to talk about cold weather, cold winter. We're going to start with the footwear, and then we're going to kind of move up the body. So it's going to be in multi-parts, this video. So we're going to do it in part one. We're just going to talk about footwear, what to wear on your feet for cold, dry, and cold, wet. So we're going to talk about these two things, cold, dry, cold, wet. So we're going to talk about all this footwear over here. This is quite the collection. Some of it is military surplus. Some of it is stuff you'd get just in the store. Some of it is brand names. And I'm going to be dropping some brand names. So you corporation brands out there, if you want this guy to represent you, send me some info and we'll get some collabs going here. So let's clear this off here, and we'll start with cold and dry. Okay, I lied. Cold and dry, I don't have that footwear here because the last time I wore them was the last time it was this cold and dry. When we're talking cold and dry, we're talking below freezing. So 0 degrees Celsius, 32 degrees Fahrenheit, low humidity, dry. It's when that snow gets that kind of squeaky sound when you're walking on the snow. You don't have to worry about walking through puddles because they're all frozen because it's below freezing. So below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, below 0 degrees Celsius. The last time it was this cold here in New York, I'm in New York, by the way, on Long Island. It was a couple of years ago, and I packed them away thinking, it's not gonna get that cold again. And I don't know where I put them. They're in a box, they're in a bag, they're somewhere out here. But I'll put the picture either here, here, here. Wherever those pictures go, I'm going to put a picture of what I have. They're called Mucklucks. It's spelled M-U-K-L-U-K. And it's based on, I believe it's an Inuit design, where all it is just insulation on your feet with leather bottoms. It's not waterproof. It's totally breathable. They're usually made out of cotton, and you might think, well, wait a second, Parsley, you said don't wear cotton. I've heard you on your other videos. Oh, and by the way, this is a good time at this video. If you haven't already, hit like, comment, subscribe, comment down there, hit subscribe. Let's get those subscribers. We're slowly building our numbers, so come on down. Anyway, you want something that's going to breathe, especially when it's cold and dry, because you, as you're perspiring, as you're walking, you're going to produce a lot of moisture, and you've got to get that moisture away from your body, especially away from your feet. So I'll put a picture of what I have. These are U.S. Air Force surplus mucklucks. They are cotton canvas at the top. They're green and black. The top is green. I don't like the zipper because zippers are a little fiddly when you're wearing mittens and it's cold and everything. That's not my favorite. What I want to save up money for, these or here or wherever, these are called Steger or Steger. They're made in Ely, Minnesota, E-L-Y, Minnesota, which, fun fact, is the dog sledding capital of the United States. You'd think it'd be Alaska, but no, it's Ely, Minnesota. And they're made right here in the U.S., right in Ely, Minnesota, or if I'm pronouncing that wrong, please correct me in the comments. And they're Steger Mucklucks, M-U-K-L-U-K. They are expensive, but they will last forever. And the thing about Mucklucks is you have the outer canvas, cotton canvas. You have the bottom, which is leather. The soles, which are rubber. The Air Force ones that I have, the bottom is rubber, and the sole is rubber. The Steger Mucklucks, the bottom is leather, and the sole is rubber. But the insulation comes from, it's kind of similar to these boots over here, which I'll show you a little bit later, but these have a liner that's made out of felted wool, and that is where the insulation comes from. So the insulation is the wool inside. You wrap it up tight, your feet can breathe, you can wear snowshoes, you can walk across frozen lakes, you can ride a snowmobile, you can, whatever you need to do, and your feet will stay nice and warm. So those are the only things that I don't have to show you for cold and dry. Mucklucks are the best for cold and dry. You could wear all of these for cold and dry, but once we go through all of these, you'll see why maybe one is not so good about the other. But you want your feet to breathe. Once the moisture is trapped in, especially if it's below freezing, that moisture can freeze instantly, and frozen next to your feet, no good. That's where frostbite comes from. So let's clear this off, and then we'll really start with talking. We'll go from coldest to warmest footwear, coldest temperature footwear to warmest temperature footwear. Okay, all right, these boots right here, these are the bomb boots. These are, the nickname is Mickey Mouse boots, because I guess they kind of look like Mickey Mouse feet if you were to walk around with them. These are U.S. Army surplus. You can see on the back there, it says U.S. The problem with these is that they are really heavy, but they are warm as heck. It's 2 layers of rubber. There's insulation in the middle here. These are really warm. These would be good for cold and dry. These are perfect, but they're really, really heavy. Now, the key thing about when you're putting weight on your feet, the old saying is 1 pound on your feet is equivalent to 5 pounds on your back. These are really heavy. I've walked in these, and after a while, it's just, I don't know how our military does it, marching in these. Good for them, but it's, I couldn't do it. These are really heavy, but they're very warm. Because they're military surplus, they're essentially bomb-proof. But the only problem, I don't know if you could see, that I've been starting to have in storage is that the rubber is starting to dry rot, which is not good because these are hard to find and these are really expensive. And this valve, a lot of people think this valve is to add air, to add insulation. No, don't do that. This valve is only for when our military is wearing these up, if they're parachuting, skydiving, well, not skydiving, I guess you would call it parachuting, because it's not for fun, it's for maneuvers. This would be to equalize the pressure in the boots, because when you go up in a plane, you got differential pressure, or up in high altitude, this is just to pressurize the boots, not to add air. A lot of people think, oh, I'll add air, it makes it warmer. No, don't do that, because then you'll add moisture in here in the air, and in between the layers it'll freeze, and that's no good. So these are really good for snowshoeing, really good for if you're sedentary somewhere, sitting for a while. Snowmobiling, these are great for ice fishing. Ice fishing is where you're kind of just sitting and sitting and sitting. These will keep your feet nice and warm. But if you're gonna hike, if you're gonna go 10 miles, 15 miles, I probably wouldn't wear these if it was cold and dry. If I were to hike 10, 15 miles, whatever, I would probably not wear mucklucks, because mucklucks would be more for flat, even, not really for up and down terrain. Probably wouldn't wear these for long hikes, but I have other things that you could wear. But these are, I forget the military term for the code for these. That's what it would say inside there. But everybody knows them as Mickey Mouse boots. So, because, yep, as you're wearing them, you kind of look like Mickey Mouse. So, these are really good. They come in black and white. You can find them on eBay. They're very expensive these days because they used to be all over the place now, but these are getting harder and harder to find. So, Mickey Mouse boots, cold and dry and cold and wet, but not really for hiking because these are really, really heavy. Okay, next one. All right, these are similar to those Mickey Mouse boots, but these are a little bit lighter, and these are more civilian. And you've all seen this type of boot before. This brand is Kombu, but the brand that's everyone's most familiar with these type of boots is Sorel, S-O-R-E-L, I think. And this is, and all you vegan watchers out there, I know we're going to be talking a lot about animal products, but when it comes to insulation, I mean, you could try other materials, but nothing matches the insulating power or waterproofing of leather, wool, silk. So these are all, for the vegan alternatives, I mean, it's polyester, it's synthetics. I guess wool is the least of the animal products because the sheep can just grow their wool back. But silk is a whole nother thing. Leather, obviously. So you just have to kind of make your own decisions there. Okay, back to these boots here. So these are pack boots, P-A-C, because they have a liner. And the liner is made out of wool. This is a felted wool, so it's really, really warm. Once you put your sock in here and you put this in the boot, it gets really warm in here. And the top is leather and the bottom is rubber, so it's totally waterproof. So if it was around that kind of melting snow time, or if you're kind of in and out of puddles or whatever, these are really good. But again, these are heavy. They're not as heavy as the Mickey Mouse boots, but they're heavy. So, and you don't get a lot of maneuverability with these. But again, these are good for snowshoeing. These are good for snowmobiling. These are good for ice fishing. These are good for shoveling the driveway. But if you're going to do some long distance hiking, I mean, I guess if you're going snowshoeing, these would be okay. But if you're kind of going up and down, you know, up a mountain or anything, these are good, but not great. So these are pack boots, P-A-C. There's all the different shoe brands make these. And again, if you're vegan, I mean, I guess you could get vegan leather. The rubber is vegan, I guess, by virtue. But these are really good, and these liners, they can come out. Don't wash them though, because you'll shrink them because it's wool. You can just hand wash them just to get if there's any stink in there out. Some of them come with real fur on the top. I mean, it's cool. It looks nice. There is a practicality to it, but this is fake fur on the top here. But these are pack boots, so this is another type of cold weather adventure boot. These are my favorites. Love these. These are my favorite boots for hiking, for cold and dry, cold and wet. These are, again, military surplus. These are, what do they call these? Intermediate cold weather boots, ICWB. This is like that transition from melting snow, freezing snow, melting snow, freezing snow. So between 30 and 40 degrees, this is my go-to for when I'm doing any hiking, I'm going snowshoeing or doing something, because these are great. This is a leather top. I don't think these are Gore-Tex. I don't think they are. I don't like to use Gore-Tex because it's not breathable. You want your footwear to be somewhat breathable. I know I said this is good in wet weather. Leather is pretty good. As long as it's not getting soaked, it's good because it can vent the moisture that your feet are making. And what's cool about these is this also has a liner. Now, one of my dogs, when they were a puppy, got to it. That's why they're all chewed up here. But these are quilted. It's a thin liner. It's not as thick as the pack boots that we saw before. So these are, they go in and, oh yeah, this is Gore-Tex. So I didn't like these because it's Gore-Tex, but you know, it does help with a little bit of that water, and it's supposed to be a breathable membrane. And I hear these days you can't get Gore-Tex because there's some kind of chemical something in it. I don't remember. If you know, put it down in the comments. I remember reading it somewhere. I stopped buying Gore-Tex a while ago because I prefer all my outerwear to breathe without having that membrane, and that membrane breaks down over time and it stops working. So what's the point? So this is leather, so this will be somewhat water resistant, not waterproof, but water resistant. And these are not that heavy. I've put right on my snowshoes. I've gone hiking up and down with these, and these are great. These are my go-to winter boots when I'm going out doing some kind of hiking or something. Even icy conditions, snowy conditions, doesn't matter. These go right through it. And again, military surplus. The other cool thing about military surplus, if you care about this, is that all military gear for the U.S. military is made in the USA. So you're supporting factories that are making material that's here in the United States. So made in the USA, they always have that. Be careful when you're buying military gear, because there's a lot of counterfeit out there, and people will say it's military, but it's military style. And if you look where it's made, 9 times out of 10, it will be made somewhere else and not made in the USA. But do your research. All military gear has identifying, like this here. I don't know if you can see it, but this has a tag over here. This has a code, a number that you could look up, and you could see that if it's real military, U.S. military, or whatever military there is out there. Because I have some gear from other countries, military, that know about cold weather, like Swedish Army stuff. If you could find it, wow, it's top-notch stuff. And like I've said before, military gear, these boots are bomb-proof. You can't destroy these. You could try, but you're not going to destroy these. Vibram sole, leather, triple stitching, the whole thing. You could try to destroy these, but our military has tried to destroy it, and they can't. So these will last you a very long time, but they are heavy. So these are a little bit lighter than the bunny boots, but they're still a litall heavy. But these are my go-tos. All right, now we're starting to kind of transition to a little bit warmer, maybe 40 degrees, maybe 45 degrees, still snow on the ground, but the snow is melting. There's a lot of puddles around. Or even if you're walking in early spring and it's muddy and there's water everywhere, these are the best. I actually got these on eBay, and I don't know if you can see, it's got Boston Celtics embossed there. I'm not a basketball fan, but they were cheap and they were on eBay and they fit and perfect. So the only problem with these are LL Bean. You can see here the main, let me see if you get it in the light there, the main hunting shoe. These are the classic LL Bean boots. As a matter of fact, I'll put a picture here somewhere. The last time I was in Freeport, Maine at LL Bean headquarters, they had the Bean car right out in front. So they have this car that's shaped like this boot that they drive around. Kind of like the Wienermobile of Oscar Mayer, which I also saw. Fun fact, and I got the Oscar Mayer whistle. So good deal. Anyway, these are leather tops. These are hunting shoes. This is rubber on the bottom. The tread's not great. It's not great for doing a lot of hiking, and I've used these a lot, and the tread is starting to wear out. But the good thing about these Bean boots is that you can send them back to LL Bean. They will resole them for a cost, but they will resole them, so you don't have to take these and throw them away. And these are also made, let me just verify that pretty sure that these are made here in the USA, made in Freeport, Maine. It does say made by LL Bean right here. I don't know if you can see that. Freeport, Maine. But it did say, I remember seeing somewhere that it did say made in the USA. No, I can't find it now. But anyway, these boots are great for wet, cold. They're not insulated, which I like. And the only thing I don't like is this rubber on the bottom, because it's completely waterproof, which is good, but bad because your feet are going to sweat in here. They're going to put out a lot of moisture. So if it's cold and your feet are sweaty in here, that sweat's not going to be able to get out. This part can breathe a little bit because it's leather, and leather does breathe, but the bottom part will not. So your feet might get clammy in here, but they'll stay dry from the elements. They just won't stay dry from your sweat. So we'll talk about socks in a minute or so in the next segment. But these are really good LL Bean Bean boots. And the only problem that I don't like about these, there's, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 lace holes. Hey, that sounds dirty. It's really hard to get your foot in, because you got to unlace it almost down to the bottom. And then when you lace them all up, it's a bit of a problem. So I've been looking into getting the speed lace hooks, at least on the top here, so I could just hook them up and go and just put them on. They are a little hard to get on and get off, but once you get them on, they're very comfortable and they're very light. And that's the other thing. Remember, 1 pound on your feet, equivalent to 5 pounds on your back. So whatever you are walking in, you want it to be lightweight, because the more you walk with heavy footwear, it's just it's a slog. And by the end of the day, you're just completely exhausted. Okay, next and final pair. These are Keens, K-E-E-N, Keen, right over there. These are, I forget what model these are. I don't remember what these are, but these are the hiking shoes, and these are breathable. These are not waterproof, So if I know I'm going to be wearing these, I'm going to try to avoid wet. But if I'm only going out for a little while, and if I have really good socks on, I could get by with these. I have walked in snow, like 2 inches snow, but it's like really icy. I'll wear these because these are really light. These are like wearing sneakers. And one of the next things we're going to talk about is the accessories for walking in winter ice conditions, snow, so you don't slip and fall and hurt yourself really bad, which is very possible. So all of this footwear that we just kind of went through is cold and wet, cold and dry. If we're going above 50 degrees, that's a whole separate batch of footwear. We'll do another segment on warm weather footwear. You could even get away with like hiking sandals if your feet don't get that cold. But this is for cold winter, below freezing, below 32 degrees Fahrenheit and above 32 degrees Fahrenheit. So we're going to talk next about a little bit of accessories to make walking in winter a little bit more easier for you. I figured I'd just leave the Keens out here because most of what I'll show you now for like accessories to add, more often than not, I'll be wearing these, or I'll be wearing these boots too. So I'll probably grab these in a minute. I'll just leave these off to the side. But even in summer hiking, you know, trekking poles are very important to have because you got the points on the bottom, especially if it's icy. You want to be able to have that stabilization because you don't want to fall on ice, on rocks, knock your noggin because it'll knock some sense into you, but you definitely want to have trekking poles. And I recently checked, I think the TSA, I'll put it down here if I'm wrong, but the TSA, I think allows these on carry-on. I thought they didn't, but I'll have to check and make sure because I guess this could be considered a weapon. So I want to say that they didn't, but I checked recently. Maybe it was something else. I'll put down here if TSA allows these or not, and we'll get back to that. So let me come back and see what else we got here. All right, this right over here, this pile, I got about 1, 2, plus dog hair, 1, 2, 3, 4 different pairs of gaiters. Gaiters, Gaiters, gaiters. This is what you would wear, you know, to kind of cover. I'll try to put a picture of what it would look like right over here, wherever, of what it would look like when you're wearing gaiters. Basically what it does, and you can see this is military. I think this is German military. It's got a little thing on the bottom for an instep, so you kind of, your foot would go like this, like this, right? And then there's a hook. There's a little hook over here. See that little hook? The hook goes on the laces, and then it kind of zips up, and then it covers. No, I don't even need to put a picture. So if you didn't see a picture, this is why, because you don't need a picture. It's pretty obvious right here. So this is what it kind of looks like. You have the gaiter, covers your bottom of your pants, covers the tops of your shoes. So snow, ice, water really can't get into that shoe, sock, bottom of your pants interface over there, so nothing can get in. And again, these are made of different material, Gore-Tex, breathable membranes. This, I think, is a treated canvas. And again, it's got a zipper. Again, I don't like zippers on winter gear because zippers get frozen, they get fiddly. I don't like zippers, but it is what it is. So this is, I think this is German military. I don't remember. And this is also military. I think this is, let me see. No, I think this is Swiss. Not Swedish because it would have the crown on it. But this is the same kind of situation. You've got treated material. It's waterproof. It's got a zipper. I bought these brand new. I never really used them because I didn't really like them. They were really stiff. So I don't know. I'd still have them just in case I'm hiking with someone, they don't have gaiters. Be like, hey, I have gaiters. Here you go. And these are just a little lightweight, breathable. These are really light. This is better because this has Velcro sealing. It's got a little cord in the top. I also have, which I forgot to grab, I should have grabbed it, but these little, and this is again for warmer weather when you're going around sand and gravel, little gaiters that only come up about this high, just to cover again, just so nothing gets into your shoe here. And that's basically what these are, so nothing gets in, snow, ice, anything. This goes under the instep, and this is the hook that hooks onto the laces. And this is for, again, the short ones, kind of like what I was saying before, but the ones I was talking about before are even shorter. So this is just for a quick, out. It's got Velcro too. It's got the hook that goes onto the laces. This goes under the instep, and this is just a little shorter, so it would kind of, go like that. So those are gaiters. Those are helpful with the hiking sticks, the trekking poles to keep your stability, and the gaiters just to keep stuff out of your shoes. But if you have a boot like this, I rarely wear gaiters when I'm wearing boots because, it's got its own built-in gaiter right there. So I don't really need them. So, but the next thing is the most important, and you see it right over here. So we'll talk about that in a second. Okay, these are not crampons. Crampons are technical climbing spikes where I have a pair. I don't know where they ended up. I got them years and years ago when I was gonna try to do some technical ice climbing in Mount Washington, but this is going back maybe 20, 30 years. I even had technical double layer boots, mountaineering boots, but they dry rotted and fell apart. So I threw them out years ago. But these are not crampons. Crampons are for ice climbing and for technical climbing. So you don't want to wear crampons if you're just kind of walking around because they're too big, they're too solid. They're basically knives, spikes on the bottoms of your shoes. So you don't want to wear those. You want to wear these. These are micro spikes. There's other brands out there. They're, I think it's called Yak Trax. It's like a heavy duty spring that you put on your bottom of your shoes. I don't like those because they can tend to be a little slippery, but these don't slip. These are micro spikes. They go right onto your shoes. You can take them on and off very easily. As a matter of fact, I'm not going to show you how to put them on because you're just going to see me struggling putting it on. So I'll put it on one of my Keens over here. I've also had them on these too, so I'll put them on both of these so you can kind of see what they look like. All right, that took a little bit of doing. I'm tired. You really got to struggle a little bit to get them right. And I can tell you from experience, when it's cold out and you got to take your gloves off to put these on, it's a little easier because you can really pull when they're on your feet. When they're off your feet, it's a little harder to put these on, but this is what they look like, the micro spikes, at least here on the boot itself. And it's not perfect, but it's good enough for the video. So this is kind of what they look like when they're on the boot. And then when they're on the sneakers, you can see that it's kind of squished because my foot's not in here to keep the shape of the shoe. But this is also kind of what it looks like when they're on the sneakers. These are really important, the micro spikes, because you need those when you're walking on ice. I've been hiking on rocks and ice, and without these micro spikes, you'd be slipping and sliding all over the place, and the trekking poles will really keep everything stabilized. So let me clear everything off here, and then we're going to talk about socks, and then kind of putting everything together in the systems. Okay, the last thing you kind of want to get dialed in here are your socks, what you're going to put on your feet. There's a couple of different ways to go about it. Usually you want to start with, the classic is the outer layer is a thick wool pair of socks. And again, vegan options, there's not much out there. The fleece is okay. I've had fleece socks, but they wear out very, very, very fast. So you'd have to come up with something else, or deal with wool if you're vegan, or come up with some other kind of operation. You can, I guess if you're vegan, you could do vapor barrier socks in very cold weather. So vapor barrier is basically wearing plastic bags on your feet. You don't want to do that for too long because your feet sweat, and you want to get your feet out of that moisture-rich environment, because when your feet are wet for extended periods of time, that's not good either. So Vapor barriers do work. Vapor barrier socks do work. You know, it's the old when you were a kid, you have the bread bags on your feet and you went sleigh riding all day, and that was fine. And again, if you're just doing day hikes, a couple of hours, that's fine. But if you get stuck out there, you want to be able to have some kind of way of keeping your feet dry, because wet feet for extended period of time is not good. So this is like the classic wool sock. What you want to wear with this, because this raw wool is kind of itchy, but not only that, but you want to get that moisture off of your feet, so you want to wear liner socks. Now, a cheap way to get around buying expensive liner socks is just go to and get dress socks. Dress socks are polyester, spandex, nylon, whatever, and that's essentially what this is. They're tight, they're thin, and they will act as a little bit of a cushion layer, because once one is inside the other, they'll kind of slide on one another, and you won't get blisters. Blisters is the worst thing you can get if you do an extended hiking. That's when your toes or your skin are kind of rubbing together or rubbing somewhere on the boot, and it creates a hot spot, and that hot spot is what creates the blister, and then over time you get a big chunky bubble of a blister, and that's not good for anybody. So this will kind of cut down on blisters. So this would be your classic combination, liner sock and insulated wool sock. That's the best way to do it, keep your feet nice and warm. The other type of liner sock you could use, this is kind of neat. I wear these in warm weather, these toe socks. These are short. They do make longer ones, but these toe socks are good, especially for blisters, because there's a little bit of a cushion between your toes there. So when your toes do rub together, it's the cloth rubbing, it's not your toes, and it cuts down on blisters a lot, I've found. These are insulated ski socks. This is kind of because ski boots are a little higher, so these would work too. These are, I think this is a wool blend, acrylic and wool. Cotton, you do not want cotton in your socks at all. Blended and nothing. No cotton at all, because cotton, close to your skin, cotton is going to soak up the moisture, and it's going to stay there, and it's not going to go anywhere. And if it freezes on your toes, on your feet, that's when you get frostbite. And if you get frostbite really bad, that's when they have to, cut off your toes, and that's not good. So you want some kind of wool acrylic blend. This brand is Smart Wool. This is what I would wear with these boots with the liner, because these are kind of thin, but still kind of warm and insulated. And with that extra insulation, I've never had cold feet with these when is a boot with a liner. These are thin also, because that's the other thing you want to think about with your footwear, is what size is it going to be, how thick are the socks you're going to wear, because these socks are pretty thick. These aren't. So you want to be able to figure out what you're going to wear with socks, like these with the boots. These socks are also pretty thin. These are, I think these are Patagonia. Let me see here. I can't read yes, these are Patagonia. These are Patagonia socks. These again are thin, but they're insulated. They're merino wool. These are merino wool also. And these are merino wool. These are Patagonia also. These are a little thicker, but this is a merino wool blend, if I'm not mistaken. This is a merino wool, and I think acrylic or maybe nylon. I don't remember. But for socks, no cotton, but some kind of wool insulated material. Silk. Silk is really good for liner socks. That's old school. If you have silk liner socks, those are really good. But those silk socks are getting hard to find. So just get nylon dress socks. They work perfectly well. So you want some kind of sock that's not too thick, because you don't want your boots to be too tight, because if the boots are too tight, then you're going to cut down on circulation, and then you're going to get more blisters, and it's not a good thing. So get properly fitted footwear, properly fitted socks. Get your micro spikes if you're going to be going on ice. Get some trekking poles, and that's really footwear for cold weather gear. In the next segment we're going to talk about the other extremities, hands, because there's a lot of options for hands, and we'll talk a little bit about headwear too. And then another segment we'll talk about outerwear, torso, and bottoms too, and what are your different options out there. So Thanks for coming along on the journey. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. This is Tom from the Tom Parsley channel saying I'll see you on the next video.